Hotep, and welcome once again to another edition of Community Cop. My name is Noah Lita, one of the co-founder members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. This is where truth and real talk occurs. I'm here with two of my co-hosts today. First of all, Michael Graves, a.k.a. Big Mike.
Namaste.
And of course, the great Father Lucas.
Hotep.
And unfortunately, Julian is not here today as he's on Community Cop assignment, but hopefully he'll be rejoining us next week. We'd like to welcome you, our viewing audience, to what we hope to be another very informative program as in regards to international, national, local topics that affect or well affect our community. This is our opportunity to have a little chat, a little talk. In approximately 30 minutes, we ask that you to join in this conversation. If there's any subject that we missed that you thought is significant and should be discussed, we ask that you do share with the family, because as our good brother told us to announce every week when we come on, that this is where truth and real talk occur. James Padnoff, good brother Padnoff, who's now an ancestor, one of the strongest brothers in the UAM.
Yeah, right.
He always said, brother, whenever you come on, say this is where truth and real talk occurs. So, as customary, we like to reflect on historical events that affect our universal community. And today, we like to reflect. First of all, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of one of our great ancestors now, Dr. Ben Jacquemin, one of the greatest historians our community or this country ever produced. Him and Professor Clark, did a whole lot to advance the study of African civilization or bring that information to our community. And we'd like to just talk quickly about him. Father Lucas, what are some of your thoughts on Dr. Ben, who recently made his transition? I think he was 97 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he lived a very long and productive life.
He hadn't been in good health for quite a while. Mm-hmm. But the man, as you mentioned, Dr. John Henry Clark, and in that group, of course, bringing attention to Africa, past and present, and perhaps future, was Elambe Bratt.
Right.
Mm. And so it's a great loss.
Mm. I would just say that we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the passing of Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, thank God, Dr. Ben lived among us. Thank God that Dr. Ben gave us back the pyramids. Had it not been Dr. Ben, then some of us wouldn't even know that Egypt is in Africa. And Dr. Ben gave us the pyramids back, gave us thousands of years of pristine history, gave us all the various dynastic periods, gave us all that back to us, because when we watch the movies and watch Hollywood, as this new movie is coming out on Jesus, as a movie just came out recently on Moses, during the time of Seti and Seti 1, Seti 2, Ramses, the Ramses period. Dr. Ben gave that back to us. And Father Lucas and Noel mentioned Dr. John Henry Clark. That tandem was unbeatable, between those two, and certainly all the Cubs they produced and those who came behind them, like Dr. Jeffries and others, just gave us back something that we had lost. We didn't think that an Egyptian was black. We thought that an Egyptian was white. So we thank God for giving us Dr. Ben, and Dr. Ben never left us. He was always in Harlem. He was a Harlemite, irrespective of where he came from and wherever he went and where he taught, at Ivy League schools, what have you. He was Harlem. He epitomized Harlem. When you think of Dr. Ben, when you think of Dr. Clark, you have to think of Harlem. And they were the true captains of that ship called Harlem. And we thank God for them being with us, and they never left us.
It was very interesting when you mentioned Harlem. I could help thinking of Dr. Ben made Pam Pam one was still open.
Right. 35th, right?
Yeah, 135th Street. Now, it was Dr. Ben. Was it Dr. Ben who debated one time Mayor Koch, after Mayor Koch said that
That was one of his great Cubs, Dr. Jeffries.
Oh, Dr. Jeffries, one of the Cubs is Dr. Ben. I remember Mayor Koch took the liberty of rewriting history and claiming that the European Jews were responsible for building the pyramids in Africa. And he attempted to take the credit, and he made a reference to the biblical section of the Bible where they talk about making bricks with mud and straw. And Professor Jeffries said, listen, I've been to the pyramid many times, and I didn't see one pyramid that was built with mud and brick.
And no straw.
And no straw. Because if anyone intelligent person knows about the weight and the size and width of the pyramid, the base of the pyramid would crush itself if it was made of some,
Right, it
simple-
wasn't no cement. It was actually made out of stone.
Exactly. But Mayor Koch, was ignorant of that. But sometimes, as I said, some people have a tendency to, to use their exaggerations and their invented history and just act as if everybody's going to go with it. So it's a very good debate. And Dr. Ben, as you stated, receives so much credit, as many other ancient writers, of really bringing the story, the correct history about Egypt, and to our community. And we'll always remember Dr. Ben. And he has many books, and you can catch him on YouTube. You can just punch his name, Dr. Ben, and listen to some of his lectures. And as you stated, he will never leave us because his information and his legacy will always remain, and we'll always have access to the information that he gave us.
And with in terms of the religious community, because we have a religious scholar among us, I'll just say that sometimes he ticked them off by saying that Moses was not the first one with the 10 Commandments,
right.
And obviously that will come under fire from religious scholars or just basic worshipers who worship in the Christian faith. But Dr. Ben said, look, there were 42 so-called negative confessions that are written right there in the pyramids, 42, and Moses took 10 of them. So if Moses presented those 10, then that was 10 out of 42. There's still 32 that he did not present. So you can't deny that if we did that 4,000 or 5,000 years ago and Moses came along after, then you can't say that it was a revelation first from Moses. That's just historical facts.
Well, that's very interesting you mentioned that because you said religious scholars, serious religious scholars know that the so-called 10 Commandments, I said so-called because it depends on how you list them, was influenced by the Code of Hammurabi long before. And so that's just plain ignorance. I had to smile when you mentioned that Egypt being in Africa. I thought it was the Middle East.
That's another invention.
That's another one. There ain't no such thing as the Middle East.
Right.
That's Africa.
Right.
And Dr. Ben, he brought so much true knowledge, and you have to recalibrate when you read Europeans' recantation of history or Europeans talk about historical fact, because they always take credit because they're racist and white supremacists to the core. And even though there's no basis of truth in what they declare, what they force your children to read, to regurgitate, and then spew out, even though it's not even based in fact or truth, they don't care. So we'll always credit Dr. Ben and that beautiful picture that was just on the screen, and all his companions for all the information that they brought to us.
Look, there are still some preachers today who still believe, and that's why they're supporting Israel, who still believe that these European Jews are the Jews of the Bible when they weren't around.
Right.
Didn't exist.
Right. All right, we can tie that. I guess we can tie that before we go to a film that we have. Let's tie it real quick. The Israeli elections occurred last week, and Netanyahu was reelected with a very slim margin. This is in spite of the fact that he made some comments that were, evidently racist. He attempted to conjure up enmity with the Jewish population by saying to the European Jews that the Arabs intend to vote en masse. And, he made declarations that as long as he's prime minister, there will be no two-state option in the region. And, of course, after he won, he recanted and regretted saying that he apologized for making those statements. But he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was saying. He was speaking from his heart. Father, what do you think about his re-election, his success? And what kind of commentary is that on the nation of Israel to have such a person being the prime minister?
Well, I think that may backfire because what is happening now is that he showed his true light.
Right.
And even Obama is going to have to stop kissing his butt with a smile, but he'll probably still kiss it. But it's going to more and more, I think, isolate Israel from the civilized world, wherever that exists. And more and more folks are going to recognize the apartheid situation that Israel has created and is continuing to.
Well, certainly I concur in when you say that he has showed his true colors, I dare say that he's always showed his true colors.
Right, it's true.
To be anti-Arab or to be anti-African is not an impediment to reaching power in Israel. I dare say that in America, it is not an impediment to reach power in America. It is not an impediment to reach power among the Jewish community by being anti-black or anti-Arab. We're the only people that make excuses for having race first. Our people. You know, most of us preface words with, well, I'm not racist, but, you know, you have to, you know, preface your remarks that way, you know, but the fact is, he hates blacks, he hates Arabs, and he's always made that clear. And even a sitting president, which I'm sure he hates, to see him in that office, he will not give him the total respect that that office demands. He would not give President Obama the respect as a gentleman that Obama always comports himself as a gentleman. He won't give them those things. And for the record, he should be arrested. Anytime he comes into America, he should be arrested by the FBI because he has systematically spied on America over the years, sent spies into America to steal valuable information. He also was part of a process in stealing nuclear equipment from the state of Philadelphia, the state of Pennsylvania, and also nuclear weaponry and instruments, and that he was a part of that, and the FBI has never questioned him on that, and they know full well he was part of that process.
Right. And you're not even talking about the
and not to mention
the nation of Israel.
They have at least 200 warheads that Jimmy Carter went on record saying that they have. So that never even comes up. Do they or do they not? No. That's why I question the validity of real journalism in America, because none of them has asked him, do Israel have at least 200 or more warheads? The minimum is 125, and they have exceeded, according to Jimmy Carter, well over 200 nuclear warheads.
And I was going to mention the attack on a military ship. I think it was a Liberty. The nation of Israel attacked the U.S. ship, and that was swept under the rug.
That's right.
But, you know, some who may take exception with your comment that he has no love for African, don't forget the nation of Israel was the biggest supporter of apartheid white racist South Africa. They were the biggest military supporter, the biggest supporter in terms of intelligence. They supported a racist white supremacist regime in the heart of South Africa, and they even assisted them in getting the bomb, the nuclear
That's
bomb.
right.
And everyone remembers, or those of us who do remember, the nation of the apartheid nation of South Africa was causing havoc in that whole southern region. But the biggest supporter, aside from corporate America, was the nation of Israel.
You know, it's rather interesting, too, that there is a growing number of Jews in Israel and here in the United States that are opposed to the Netanyahu position.
Right.
And a number of these college students in the divestment program. Now, Big Mike said, shame on the journalists, but when you look at who controls the media, both the written and the electronic media, why are you?
Right, surprised.
Right.
Right. All right, issue number 2. There's been a number of horrific lynchings, and that, you know, unfortunately we seem to be revisiting that era. Some say it never stopped. In North Carolina, there's a Lennox Lacey who had a relationship with a white woman in North Carolina, and many thought that his death, when he was found to be hanging from a tree, was suspicious. The local authorities dismissed any suspicious inquiry and just wrote it off as a suicide. Fortunately, the FBI has now opened up an investigation because of many complaints that they've been receiving from residents of North Carolina. And Michael, why don't you open up this segment of the lynching of Lennox Lacey?
So why don't they just show the film and we could talk about it after? But it happened in North Carolina. Maybe we can go right to the film and then we can discuss it.
Oh, God, Patty, oh, Lord.
Do you have anyone there with him, or you can cut him down from the swing? We need to see if he's breathing.
He's not breathing, Patty.
Police identified the boy as 17-year-old Lennon Lacey. a linebacker for West Bladen High School, whose home opener was that night. His mother, Claudia, ID'd the body.
And it was just disbelief to me. And I said to myself, I said, whoever did this, he didn't do it to himself.
Within a week of his death, local and state police completed their investigation.
They came and told me they suspected it was suicide, self-inflicted hanging.
The medical examiner's report listed the official cause of death as asphyxia by suicide.
Claudia, how would you describe the police investigation into your son's death?
Quick. Too quick to say suicide.
The family says when Laci was found, the shoes on his feet, without laces and a size and a half too small, were not his. Neither were the belts found around his neck.
Well, they said he was found here.
Pierre is Lennon Laci's older brother.
The two straps that were tied together, they were tied together somehow, and then one was actually wrapped around this end, the other one was fed through this loop. And the way the blue part of the strap, the way it works is you would have to physically hold it together, the noose part to put your head in, you would have to hold it and then like jump into it.
So you're saying it's physically impossible for him to have put the belts around his neck in the manner that they were fastened?
That's correct.
We have reasons.
Push you, but it ain't because of hate. It's because we simply want the truth. We want all of the things to come out, all right?
Bladenboro Chief of Police Chris Hunt declined to speak to Outside the Lines. The family, however, provided him with this document, which outlined several key leads they developed. Among them, that a white male who Laci had allegedly beaten up months earlier for stealing Lennon's phone had threatened him, saying he was going to kill and hang him. Laci's mother says race might have played a role for another reason.
Because he was in a interracial relationship. He was dating a white lady that was 31 years old.
Do you think Lennon's death has anything to do with the fact that you two were seeing one another?
I don't believe so.
Michelle Brimhall, now a 32-year-old mother of three who has since moved to Illinois, had quietly been seeing Laci for several months leading up to his death.
And what was his family's reaction to your relationship?
They didn't approve, but at the same time, they didn't stop him from seeing me either.
South, it's a rural town. It's a town back that has a history of race. In fact, the place where Lennon was found hanging, older African Americans will tell you that black people used to not walk that side of town. There are people here that know that, because there's a number of lynchings in this community way back.
The way Laci died brought back scenes from the darkest days of the Old South, when racial hangings were front-page news. A rush to judgment ensued.
You've never had any personal experience with the Klan? You're laughing. It sounds like a funny question to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't even, to be real, I don't think it's nothing blamable like that. Because being growing up around white people my whole life, white cultures, I got white friends, like don't discriminate, and nobody's like that.
They didn't like the age difference, and Dewey didn't like black and white mixing.
He said that to you?
Mm-hmm.
Outside the Lines approached Dewey Sykes in December to ask him about Brimhall and Laci.
You did know Lennon very well. He was at your house a lot, right? Yeah. Don't you want to talk about that with us?
Nicole lives with the Laci family and says she watched a steady stream of traffic pull up to Michelle Brimhall's door.
You would see cars lined up in the parking spots or lined up, just parking their cars right along there, in and out, different guys, different vehicles, back and forth at her house. I'm not slow, so I put two and two together. Yeah.
Had Lennon put two and two together?
He did in a way, but he was in denial.
All right, revisit of a very dark yet consistent history of America. Michael, we'll go with you. One of the interesting components to this story is that, and all of us, have been in law enforcement, for potential or possible homicide to began and ended within a week is in and of itself problematic. But you have cooperation once again with the medical examiner's office, the district attorney's offices, and the police department to sweep this under the rug. What are some of your thoughts about this story and the fact that the FBI, because of so many problems with this case, is now picked up and is in conducting an investigation?
Well, this shows you that Ferguson is not unique. The same way, as you pointed out, there's collaboration between the district attorney's office, between the police department, between the medical examiner's department. They did it so quick, rushed this thing through, and called it a suicide, similar to the way you see that collaboration in Ferguson and all those 6 surrounding counties. I dare say you've seen that here in New York with the medical examiner's office, district attorneys, obviously, police department. These type of incestuous relationships, these symbiotic relationships, all seem to occur all together, and there's no way for the family to turn. So the mother is trying to keep her wits about her, asking them to prove to any reasonable facsimile that her son took his own life, and they know they can. And that's the only reason why the FBI came in, because of the mass protests and complaints that are there. And they know that it's impossible, as his older brother pointed out, probably without law enforcement experience at all, pointed out under those circumstances he cannot kill himself. Then when you add this brand new Air Jordan sneakers was replaced by, they live in that whole area is poverty stricken. So you're talking about some trailer trash, took some old beat up sneakers without even strings on it, and replaced it and took his Air Jordans and put his sneakers on, so the family knows. But that's what happens all throughout America, not just in North Carolina or Ferguson, but all throughout America.
I know folks are happy that the FBI is looking into this. I can't really dismiss in the back of my mind that the FBI is primarily white, too. And I don't know if whatever they come up with, is it going to bring about any serious justice at all? And there's one thing about investigation, there's another thing about punishment or penalty.
Well, most of us also know that, it's much easier to solve a crime, when you conduct a thorough investigation closer to when it occurs. Many of you watch the show 48 Hours and knows a lot of times after 48 hours, some clues and evidence begin to dissipate. So we're hoping that the FBI does do a good job. I'm not overly enthused as you, Father Lucas, but time will tell. This is one of a number of lynchings that occurred, in this country, and it was just dismissed as being, suicidal. Any closing comments on this particular case?
No, I'll just agree with both of you and just say that the FBI can easily crack this case. It's wide open. These are not sophisticated people. Yes, you see that collaboration between the ME and the police department, as well as the mayor. But the fact is, you can see right through this, and some of the people are leaving, some of the initial people are leaving. The FBI has not spoke to the family. They've interviewed the high school students, some whites, the principal people they haven't interviewed. So I'm questioning whether the FBI really is trying to find out what really happened, because in small little towns like that, where it's 80% white, 20% black, and it's a total of 2,000 people, they can really press and find out if they really wanted to.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what we were saying. We're not sure they want to.
Yeah, because there's a difference between being able to and wanting to. A lot of times, say police department, they have the capabilities to do what's right, but they don't have the will. So time will tell.
It was the quickest investigation I can remember.
Exactly.
I've never seen anything that quick.
And then, as Michael stated, when you look at the fact that there's certain individuals they've yet to interview, you can tell that they just wanted to the local police agency wanted to dismiss this particular act. There was another controversial shooting in Texas where a young man was shot allegedly after exiting his house with a screwdriver in his hand. I'm not certain if we have that film, but what is some information that you have regarding that particular incident?
Well, I saw the video, and the mother was exiting the door first, and she made it clear to the cops in a very calm, monotone fashion that her son was coming out and that he's schizophrenic, and he walked out with his head down, following his mother. He just happened to have a little screwdriver in his hand. It was like a toy to him. He was fondling the screwdriver, and the police officers jumped back, pulled out their guns, and told him to drop the weapon and started shooting literally at the same time. His mother was monotone. He was calm as a cucumber, and out of nowhere, they both pulled out their weapons and started shooting. They looked at that little screwdriver as if it was a Gatling gun. And just started firing. I mean, it was a shame. Had they just took 2 steps back, they could have talked to him without even pulling out their weapons. Asked the mother, would you please take that screwdriver out of his hand, or drop that back in the house, and then come out. They didn't do that. They just went to the gun and ended the situation.
I wasn't sure why the police were there in the first place. And then secondly, I don't know what kind of training that police are having, but you mean to say a police can't disarm a youngster with a screwdriver? Not a knife, a screwdriver.
Right. And then when you look at the film, I think we might have the film, actually have a copy of the film. When you look at his actions, it's not as if he lunged at the police officer.
Right.
You know, my training is that police officers are authorized to use deadly physical force when there's an immediate or imminent threat of death or serious physical injury. It seems as if, and then when you utilize force, you're supposed to use a minimal amount of force to resolve a situation. It seems as if in all of these instances, police are using a maximum amount of force to, to end the situation. And then because they have sympathetic white audiences, sympathy in the district attorney's office, they would say, well, he had a screwdriver in his hand, and that automatically, a screwdriver in the hands of a black man automatically becomes a dangerous weapon. And if you look at the film, the gentleman is not even using it in a dangerous. He's not even threatening them. He has it in his hand, but there's no reason is he holding it in a threatening manner. But this is just another example of the United States of America criminal justice system in 2015.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think the mother made the call because he has mental problems. And I dare say, and just want everybody to know, please think twice before you call the police department on something that does not require law enforcement. If you're calling about a family member, a loved one, just try to call emergency service or try to take them to the hospital yourself. He was calm, cool, and collected. You could see that screwdriver was literally a toy to him. His head was down. He wasn't focused in on the police officers. And so that once you call the police department, you have to remember, once the police department comes to your house, guess what? You are no longer in control. You cannot determine the terms of what's going to happen. Once the police department enters your house, the police department is in control, not you. So just please remember that before you call on a loved one, because you could have easily taken that young man to a hospital, wherever you was going to take him, to get whatever services he needed. There was no need in that particular case to call the police because he was calm and collected.
There's a saying that if you're white and EDP, the police come and you go to the hospital. If you're black and EDP, the police come and you go to the morgue.
What's EDP?
Emotionally disturbed.
Right.
Person.
Yeah. Right. So that's really, and from the pictures that I saw, damn it, I could have disarmed the guy.
Right. Yeah. And there's been many instances.
I thought they take this kind of training.
Exactly. I can't even tell you how many times I had to disarm people with a stick, a bat, or this or that. And a lot of times, you know, simple verbal judo, you know, getting times, you know, we had trained to maintain a certain amount of distance, you know, to consistently observe the person. But verbal judo was a tool that was, you know, training. It's still part of the training, but as you stated, Father, when it's African American, and it's unbelievable when you see so many of the videos of so many of these horrific, unnecessary killings, police killings, there's very little verbal judo being utilized. There's very little time. You know, there's no rush. He's not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. When you see the mother exit the house, it's evidently that she's not under any stress or drama.
Right.
She walked calmly, and he's behind her.
Right.
So it's not as if he was attacking her, and she said, "Oh, help, help!" You know. So you know, police officers, you know, and it has nothing to do with training. It has much more to do with attitude. Closing comments before we go to our phone calls.
Well, you mentioned the verbal judo. I don't know about the police department right now, but I know it's practically discontinued in the correction department.
Right.
Well, I think verbal judo is always just to talk to a person. This person was just so calm. I'm wondering just how mental, whatever mental problems he had, whatever it was, he might have been in another world, la la land, but he wasn't thinking about attacking or menacing anybody at that time.
Right, and we one time have to do a program on the medication of the African American community. You know, there's so much medication being forced upon our kids, and so many of you parents, you know, when these schools and these administrations classify your kids as learn disabled, you know, you have to really sometimes question it. And a lot of times we think just because these people have documents and educations behind their names that their word is golden.
Well,
and
they get paid though, you know.
Who's that?
Unfortunately, when the child is on those types of medications, they pull the parents into that because the parents get a stipend.
Exactly, and but I think there's a relationship. You know, if you look at the 2 million kids that are in these, what they call these programs, education, these programs for allegedly the learning disability, what is special ed, you know, special education program, and when you look at, you know, the increase in the prison population, you know, there's a lot of info. But here's a clip of it. Let's look real quick.
How you doing, man? What's going on?
Who's that? Chopping up people in the sun. Bipolar schizo.
What's going on? You drop that for me. Drop that for me, guy.
Jay!
Drop it!
Jay!
Drop it!
Jay!
Bravo 7.
Drop it!
Shots fired. Cover code 3. Drop that!
Drop it! Drop it!
Put it down! We're good.
He's still alive. He's still alive.
We handcuff him? Just kick that over there.
He was in the doorway. He had a screwdriver. We had this behind us. We had to shoot. He came at us. We shouldn't probably talk about it, but yeah, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about it. Yeah.
If you don't understand white supremacy, what it is, how it operates in today's world, everything you think you understand would only confuse you. Now, he said he lunged at us. We had to shoot. I know it was kind of a quick clip. You know, the mother's coming out and saying he's bipolar. She's cool, calm, and collective.
Right.
She thought they were going to be there to assist, you know, but they raised the level of tension. Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
He was literally in La La Land. His mother was trying to wake him up because he had his head down, playing with the little screwdriver, walking out of the house. He didn't even know what was coming on him. He was just like in another world, not menacing anyone. And when the police officers, as soon as they said drop it, guns were out, pointed, aimed on him. Within that same millisecond, they're shooting. And then after the fact, they're still saying drop it. He's already on the ground. But the word noise, they're trying to act as if this is all part of a scenario, saying he's still alive. They know they just killed that man. They both unloaded on him.
And I remember receiving that in my training. Officers who now know that they're on film or people have cameras will give an instruction that is totally in contrast to actually what's happening. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. And you look at the person, they're not resisting, but the officer is playing that towards the camera. But we're at the portion of the program we have to go to our telephones. First caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. My hotel, brothers. How y'all doing? Kareem?
My hotel, brother.
Yes, brother. We are under attack, brother. You know, we just need to make this clear. They can send us to Afghanistan. They can send us to Iraq to fight an enemy who is not our enemy, and we give up our life, but yet still we won't stand up and fight for our people right here in the wilderness of North America. When are we going to wake up? Also, President Obama just had a conference saying that he's going to give $200 and some billion to Afghanistan to keep troops in Afghanistan, but yet he still doesn't. They will now help his own people here in America who are dying, who lost their homes, who need jobs, but they always got money to help the Jews and the white folks. Brother Mike, I would like for you to respond to this, brother, because I think you can make this very clear. And thank you, brother, and have a blessed day.
Thank you for your call.
Well, thank you, brother. Well, I thought you made it clear, but I'll say that President Obama needs to focus in on those black folks in Detroit that are catching hell from these white corporations and this white governor who's got a state of tyranny in Detroit, selling everything, selling all the public lands, whether it's the highways and the water, selling turnstiles, all kind of things, and parking lots, all these things that are money producing, and allowing all of those predatory lending schemes that went on. He's allowing that to continue. That's what he needs to focus on things like that, and focusing on all these police departments that are just killing black folks outright. He needs to do that.
You expect him to focus on that? Never mind. That's rhetorical. You know, the question is, why do the United States have troops in Afghanistan in the first place?
And the answer is, listen, the European government's intention was to destabilize that whole region. Exactly. If you look at this so-called freedom reign that they called it, if you look at every country that allegedly went through this process of pro-democracy, it's havoc from Libya down to Egypt. And it's intentional. Europeans knew what they were doing. They assassinated heads of states in that region to cause the chaos that you now see in that region. It wasn't to assist them. It was to cause havoc, chaos, so they can steal their natural resources. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, brothers, how you doing? And I'm 100 blacks in law enforcement.
My hotel.
All right, brother.
Okay, Michael Graves, Noah Leader, Father Lucas. It's good to see you online.
Yes, sir.
And I'm always thoroughly impressed with the conversation. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to comment on two comments. Me and Mike were just talking last night about that North Carolina case, the young man from the football team being lynched out in North Carolina. We understand thoroughly white supremacy, and we understand that white supremacy is always caused to defend itself. I don't think white supremacists they don't care less about that the white young lady or that's on drugs. Right. They don't care about that.
Right.
It's the very notion that a young black man was boldly and bravely seeing this white woman in the neighborhood, and unfortunately, I don't think the family in this case really got that. Now, I think we've got to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
And the other point is that you guys know I did emergency service work for many years, and the primary duties were dealing with emotionally disturbed people. So let me just say this, and for your thoughts. It is very dangerous work dealing with emotionally disturbed people with any kind of weapons and guns and all that stuff, and that was really the bulk of our work. We are well trained, and we trained every day to deal with those issues. Unfortunately, a lot of law enforcement across the country are not trained as well as we are, gentlemen. That's on this panel. Being out here in Florida and going to other states, they just don't occur the same amount of training that we have in dealing with emotionally disturbed people. So that's just another factor, in addition to racism, a black man with a weapon in the hand, and just spontaneous shooting, as opposed to that white woman that killed 3 kids standing in the doorway at night, and it was able to take her down. So, that's the barriers that we're dealing with. But brothers, good talking to you.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, brother. Excellent points.
Yeah, I think your point about they don't have the kind of training is correct. But with the training that we have, we're doing the same thing.
And also, it goes without saying that white folks are not killing other white folks, so it's definitely not anything to do with training, truth be told.
All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Calling from home. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hotep, brother.
All right.
Hotep. You know, I watched an interview with his mother on one of these news stations. I think it was Al Jazeera the other night. And she said that she's made that call numerous of times about her son and never had a problem. But she's also said that she also pleaded, the last time he was in the hospital, she pleaded with the hospital not to release him because of his condition. And the hospital told her, well, there's nothing more we can do for him. He's stable, so he's good to go. And we see what the result was. She said that if she had known that that the cops are going to kill her son, she would have never made that phone call.
Right.
And if you know, like Michael Gray said, you know, you shouldn't get the police involved, but unfortunately, if you involve the EMTs, the police are automatically going to be called.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is, gentlemen, these police officers are not trained to deal with mentally ill people, and they shouldn't be on the scene. But then again, I just saw them take a white man off some train tracks in Pennsylvania yesterday without incident. So I don't know. They didn't shoot him. They didn't do anything. They didn't even have their weapons drawn.
Right.
So and this man, he was cool as a cucumber. He was just playing with the screwdriver. He wasn't even threatening, and he wasn't even lunging. So
Okay. Excellent point, brother. We got a lot of phone calls.
All right. Good night, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. And police officers are trained in New York City Police Department on how to handle emotionally disturbed persons. All right, but next caller.
Yeah, and they use that training in the white community,
Exactly.
but in our community, it's something different.
Yep. All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, this is Bernard from Flatbush.
Okay, Hotep, brother. Are we on in Brooklyn?
Yes, we are. We're down on Brooklyn.
Okay, Hotep, brother.
Yes, so listen, I got a question because I was trying to reach Michael Gray earlier this week. My brother's doing a class and a seminar on what do you do when the police approach you in the first place. I mean, you have a leaflet or a pamphlet or something like that, because we really need to get that to the community.
Right.
Because my brother's doing a class on this, and I'm glad y'all brought this subject up right now because we need to educate the young kids and the adults, because this is a problem. We being predators, you know, in our neighborhood. They're preying on us, and we need to find a way to defend ourselves, or know how to approach them, what to say, how to reply to them.
Right.
You know, when they approach you.
Okay.
It's the necessary thing. What do we do?
Okay, brother, I got it. Listen, we'll give you a hotline number if you want to invite us up to do a seminar, but you can print something off our website. It's at 100blacksinlawenforcement.com. That's 100blacks and lawenforcement.com. We have a whole pamphlet you can print out. If the cops come to your house, if the cops stop you in the street, if cops pull you over in the car, some of the suggestions that we offer in terms of how you should navigate that. But thank you for your phone call. 100blacksinlawenforcement.com. You can print out as many copies as you want. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
How you doing, family? It's Brother Ray in Brooklyn.
Hotep, brother.
Let me ask you, you know, this has got to be state-sponsored terrorism, and the more white folks are losing their power and control in this country, they're just coming down on us, and it seems like soon as Obama initiated this colorblind society, they just doing anything, and it's ridiculous just to see something like that, and they've been doing it. But everybody's a colorblind society. What is going on with this stuff right here?
Yes, excellent point, Michael. As you know, some of the young men, and even in the film, said that they didn't even see racism, you know, in that town.
Those young guys on the football team said they don't see it, you know, and you just got to consider that President Obama, the symbol that him and Eric Holder has, puts people at ease. However, when you see these cases all over, the two clips we just showed, and others, the 4 cops in Fort Lauderdale that resigned, and Noel pointed out something weeks ago that we always need to consider. Why allow them to resign? Fire them and take their pensions.
Right. All right. And like Harriet Tubman stated, you know, she could have freed more slaves if they would have known they were slaves. And that's a very powerful commentary on the, you know, mindset. You know, here you have individuals who are enslaved, and she said she could have freed more if they would have known they were slaves.
And I'm not surprised they said they were high school football players.
Right.
Well, no wonder they don't see racism.
Right. And, you know,
their brain has been scrambled.
and then they don't know how to make a distinction between
Yeah.
playing football, because whites, even white supremacists, have always enjoyed black entertainers, black sports figures, but it's when you get into the job market, it's when you want to buy a house next to their house, it's when you want to be their boss. That's when the white supremacy comes along. Not if you just throwing the football to each other, you know, or maybe in a band or, you know, at a party or something like that, because they always enjoyed black music. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Rockaway.
Okay, Queens.
Yes, in the boondocks we call it, the rock. Listen, I'm looking at you on the computer, and I didn't see the first clip. I only saw the second. Fortunately, something I didn't want to, not because of you, but I saw the young man in the doorway with the screwdriver in his hand, not pointed at the cop. And I saw what looked to me was at least 2.5 to 3 ways that the cop was standing. I see no reason why he shot the young man, and the boy did not have his hands up in a threatening manner. And as far as the president is concerned, I have to say that this racism was there all the time. Because they have a so-called black man in the presidency, the racism now has shown itself openly. That's what's done. It hasn't been, it's been here all along. And it's nothing that Obama can do because, and everyone knows, it's been here. And they don't want it closed down.
All right, excellent point, sister. Thank you for your phone call.
Thank you.
Okay, next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
All right, out the Bronx.
Okay.
For Community Cop, a few things here. One, if Nat Wood or somebody, let us know if you guys are archived, because the woman did say she was on the computer. So for future shows, so we can go back and look at it, use it as a learning and studying tool, just like Dr. Ben would want,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Clark, because history removes the mystery. That lady said that if she had only known, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, history removes the mystery. So just go back and know your history and know how they do us. And speaking of doing us, more blacks on the force in Ferguson and other municipalities. We know the thugs from the scrubs and the school kids, so when you have more blacks on these forces, they can identify because they have an insider's perspective, so they know the schools. You won't get school kids thrown up against cars, being stopped and frisked versus, going after the real thugs there. And lastly there, to bring it on home, what's in your hand, protect the youth. You have your Metro cards in your hand, so as you're getting on, as you're getting off, swipe them on, because that saves them from getting those little tic-tac charges, which prevents them from getting those jobs. Like you guys know, you had guys that came on the job when you guys were on, started off in high school, they had their families were in the communities, they made the communities much more stable because there wasn't a whole flight, and when they got like to Sarge or whatever, through going through John Jay.
Okay, we got you. We got your point. We got a lot of callers. Got a lot of callers, but thank you for your call. Are we on in the Bronx? Okay, hung up. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Hold that, brother. Go ahead, brother, you on. All right, I'm sorry, brother, you got a bad connection. One more time? All right, next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Harlem.
Hotep, sister.
I'm calling from Harlem.
Can't hear you, go ahead.
Okay, how y'all doing? I love your show.
Thank you.
I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to call you again. I called you before. I was very angry about Trayvon Martin. I'm angry as hell, okay? I want everybody that's listening to this in the United States and outside of the United States, until black people stop wasting their money in these white folk stores buying stuff they really don't need, we're never going to make a statement. Let's go all the way, August 1st, let's shut it down. All over the United States. Don't buy nothing for a week, and let's see what they do then.
All
That's
right.
the only way to deal with him. Hit him in the pocket. August 1st. Tweet it, put it on Facebook, pray on it. Let's do it. August 1st. Shut it down all across this country. Boycott.
All right, sister, thank you. Do you have a website that people can go to?
No, I don't.
Okay, but excellent suggestion, sister. Thank you for your call.
But tweet.
Okay. All right, sister. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Hotep, next caller.
Yes, can you hear?
Yeah, where you calling from, caller? Are you there, caller? Okay, we lost that call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Rockaway.
Hotep, another Queens. Hotep, brother.
Okay, this is Keisha's uncle.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay, you said they like us in sports. Just remember a kid from the Mandingo. Boxing didn't start in the gym. It started on the plantation, putting brothers against brothers, fathers against sons. Let's not forget that.
Right.
Also, but you know, as I look at what's happening, can I jump in?
I don't know. We might be having some problem with the phone, brother. We lost your phone call, unfortunately. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, where you calling from,
yes,
sister?
This is Denise. I'm calling from Harlem.
Okay.
And I love you all. And I wanted to make
Love
a
you back.
statement about these young girls that were in the McDonald's case.
Right. Okay, go ahead, sister.
Now, I have a problem with Eric Adams. He put out a $1,000 reward. I understand these girls have to pay for what they did. But he put out a $1,000 reward. And this young girl has a $500,000 bail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have men out there, these teenagers, 17-year-olds out in Bensonhurst, that attacked one detective and a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't hear Eric Adams saying anything about that case.
Mm.
And this is a police officer, 2 police officers that were attacked. And it was in Bensonhurst. So you hardly hear about it on the news. But these young girls, one of them has a $500,000 bail.
Right.
And Eric Adams put out a $1,000 reward out of his own pocket to find more people who were involved in this attack, which was brutal. But also that attack out in Bensonhurst was brutal also. It involved 15 to 17 to 20 young men. And I don't believe that they were black.
Right.
So maybe that's why you're not seeing it on the news. A lot of people haven't even heard about the case.
Right. All right, excellent.
And, you know, Eric Adams is the borough president for Brooklyn.
Right.
And Bensonhurst is still in Brooklyn.
Right. Okay, so it's an excellent point. What you need to do, or maybe you can do.
We sent him an email.
Right, okay.
And we have a page on Facebook, Save Our Girls, all of them.
Okay, all right, thank you, sister. Excellent point. Thank you for calling. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
From Brooklyn.
All right, Brooklyn, quick question or comment?
Yeah, white people are jealous of us because in the Bible, those people are black. The Messiah is black. King David is black. All those people are black. That's why they're jealous of black people.
Okay. All right, thank you, brother. Thank you for your call. And I think when you talk about the sentiments of a white supremacist in regards to African-American people, it's deeper than jealousy. I would say the better coin is hatred. Because when you look at the historical relationship and the treatment, it can be defined no better than utter hatred for African people. But I think we're at the end. Anybody want to closing comments on some of the topics that we talked, or something that we missed?
Well,
the Republican candidate, real quick. Mike, I know you're a registered Republican. What do you think about this nut who's vying, what's his name? Cruz? Yeah, who announced his candidacy.
Well, I would say that
real quick,
he should not be entertained because he was born in Canada. You have to be born on American soil to run for president, and just because it's the neighboring white nation does not qualify you, even though he's a senator from Texas? I forgot. Texas.
Yeah.
He's not eligible to run for president the same way McCain wasn't president because he was born in Panama. So these white guys somehow have a problem with the president, and he was born in Hawaii, which is American soil, and yet Cruz was from Canada, and yet he ran. He's running.
No, I just thought you summed it up. You call him a nut, and he's a nut.
And it's a big nut. All right, Michael, closing comments as we wind down.
Just big ups, and Keisha's uncle just calling from the Rockaways. We dropped your call, but Keisha will be speaking next Wednesday. A keynote address on 100 years of lynching will be her speech. So not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday at United African Movement. Keisha will be laying down the keynote address.
Location?
1061 Atlantic Avenue between Franklin and Classen. 1061. Tomorrow is good, but next week Keisha will be doing the keynote.
What time?
7 o'clock, 7 p.m.
I just comment on a couple of things I heard. One lady said that Obama can't do anything about it. Obama could do a lot if he wanted to.
Right.
And then the other comment that more black officers on these police force. Unfortunately, a lot of them get on the force and act just as if they're white because it's a culture that they want to fit into. And I've seen stop and frisk by black officers in Harlem that were a disgrace.
Right. All right. So it's not necessarily black. We want quality. We want people who want to, do their job correctly. But on behalf of Community Cop, Veronica Kidd, Nat Woods, Sheila Berry, we like to thank our producers. We like to thank Manhattan Neighborhood Network staff who helps us and sets up every week. We'd like to thank you, our viewing audience. Little Mo, I love you. Our prayers continue to go out to Mr. Harper and the Harper family. We'd like to once again encourage you to tell a foe, tell a friend, and tune in every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Community Cop. If they don't have access to the network, they can catch us over the internet, ManhattanNeighborhoodNetwork.com. I think it's called .org.
Reinstate Alton Maddox.
Lord have mercy. All right, Little Mo, I love you. And the Harper family, we're praying for you. Knowledge is power. Peace. See you next Tuesday.